The podcast you are about to listen to is not a medical podcast, nor is it designed to diagnose a condition. While there are medical experts on this show, any questions regarding medical care or concern should be directed to a primary care physician.
The team at INVAX is dedicated to delivering new, personalized immunotherapy approaches to improve outcomes for people living with glioblastoma and other solid tumors. Leveraging decades of validated research and technologies, INVAX's unique platform is designed to capture a tumor's full antigen signature and use it to stimulate a patient's immune system against remaining tumor cells. INVAX, advancing a new approach to personalized cancer immunotherapy. Hey, it's your friend Shannon Trapphagen, and welcome to the Game on Glio podcast. Here we tell the stories of brain cancer and tumor warriors, clinicians, medical experts, and those in the grief and loss community. Thanks to all of you for making our podcast one of the most popular podcasts globally. If you enjoy our show, please consider writing a review. Also share us with a friend and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and our website.
This season of the Game on Glio podcast is sponsored by GT MedTech and Gamatile Therapy. Learn more at gamatile.com. This season is also sponsored by INVAX, personalized, whole tumor-derived immunotherapy. Learn more at INVAX.com.
Yes, and. It's as simple as that. This phrase is one my counselor has said to me many times, and it's one our guest mentions today. It's a philosophy that's used to help us navigate really difficult grief and life circumstances. Interestingly, it's also used in improv. Yes, and. Yes, this thing happened, and I have to keep going. Yes, I'm a widow, and I have to live. Yes, my heart broke, and it's okay to want happiness. Yes, I love Mike, and I still need to pack his things. It's time. I recently went through another heartbreak, something very recent, something for which I'm not exactly ready to talk about, and it's something I didn't expect would happen. In dealing with a heartache, in dealing with continual loss, in dealing with trying to navigate where my life is 4.5 years after Mike's death, I'm looking around my home and realizing I love Mike and I need to pack. I have been trying to move forward. In some areas, I've been doing better than in others. Love is one of those areas that I think is going to be a much harder hill to climb. But I need to turn the baby's room back into a spare bedroom. I need to give away Mike's clothes. I need to continue to take one step forward and put one foot in front of the other. Yes, and. Yes, I'm scared about my future, and I still need to find joy. I need to seek comfort in the discomfort. This is the process of grief, all grief. Focus on self-care, cultivate hope, lean on your support system, and embrace the hurt and the pain. Today, we have a male caregiver, a widower. It's been a while since we've had the perspective of widowhood from the male side of things, and his perspective is enlightening and it's filled with grace. We sit down with Gary Andrews from the UK after a brief word from our sponsor. An estimated 25,000 cancerous brain tumors will be diagnosed in the U.S. in 2025. We understand that this diagnosis is life-altering, and finding the right treatment option is a deeply personal journey. Gamatile, an innovative solution for operable brain tumors, combines tumor removal surgery and radiation therapy in a single procedure. Gamatiles are small, bioresorbable collagen tiles embedded with radiation seeds placed at the time of surgery. Gamatile begins radiation treatment immediately, delivering targeted radiation continuously over several weeks. We recognize the strength and resilience of those impacted by a diagnosis such as brain cancer and the importance of innovation in treatment. GammaTile is the first and only tile-based radiation therapy and is indicated as a treatment for patients with newly diagnosed cancerous brain tumors and patients with recurrent brain tumors. To learn more about GammaTile or to find a GammaTile Center of Excellence near you, visit gammatile.com. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I would love to bring in our guest today, all the way from the UK, which I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite countries. I've been there many times. Gary Andrews is an animator and an illustrator. He's the father of two, the stepfather of one, and a widower. And he's joining us today to talk about his journey through being a widower, the hope and resilience he found along the way, and lessons that he's learned. So, Gary, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's dive right into this. You were a widower. Your wife died rather suddenly, so that's not like there was a ton of preparation for what happened with her. How old were you? How old was she when she passed? And what did that journey look like for you?
I was 56, I think. She was 41. And yeah, as you say, it was very sudden. I was actually away on business when she got taken ill. We thought it was just something a bit fluey. Then I got a phone call to sort of come home because it wasn't looking too good. And by the time I'd sort of flown back from where I was, she died. And it was basically in 2.5 days from being well to not being with us anymore. So it was very sudden and totally unexpected, which of course was a very strange, surreal experience. You know, we'd always prepared because I was that bit older that, you know, she'd be the one to sort of have to worry about going on without me. And suddenly we found that the whole tables were turned. And there I was at 56, looking after two young children. Our kids were only 7 and 10 at the time.
So you were actually not even there when she passed away.
I was actually on your side of the pond. But I was actually even further away. I was in Vancouver in Canada on business. She dropped me at the airport on the Monday. And I said, bye, see you in about a week and a half.
Oh my God.
By Thursday night, I had to fly home, but she died in the early hours of the Friday morning. I didn't get home till sort of Friday lunchtime. Didn't know until I got home that she died.
So how did you process that? How did you process those emotions because there's a lot of closure that did not happen?
All of it didn't happen. Yeah. Well, I was met at the airport by my mother-in-law and a brother-in-law, and they sort of got me in the car and then told me what had happened. And we had an hour's drive for me to get home because they'd managed to keep it from my kids because she'd been taken into hospital and they'd sort of left it because they thought I would probably want to tell them, which I did, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that hour to basically just get my head around the fact that she wasn't with me anymore. And then I had to tell our children that she died, you know. And so it was a kind of, the journey was a sort of weird blur, if you like. Now, on the flight on the way home, I'd been told she was pretty poorly. And I'd played every scenario in my head, including the worst case scenario, but just thinking, well, that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it did. So it was, yeah, I mean, and surreal is the word more than anything. I'm an only child. I'd lost both my parents by the time I was 30. So I'd experienced loss before.
Okay.
So there were certain elements of the emotions that were familiar and I could sort of put into a little place in my head. Because I had the kids to think about, they were my primary focus.
Do you think that helped you kind of navigate your grief because you had a focus, you had like a central point to kind of zero and hone in on during that period?
I would say 100%. Yes, very much so. Because, you know, as I said, they were very young and I had to break it to them. And it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. Their little faces and the sounds that came out of them when I told them were just the thing you just don't want to, you just don't want to sort of go through that again, you know, sort of thing.
Right.
But the incredibly leveling thing about it was, and I've told this story before, so apologies if anybody's heard me on any other podcast, but the thing that really brought home what the whole process means in a way was, you know, I told them, they cried, we were in the garden about 15, 20 minutes, and then the crying went down, and then they sort of turned to me and said, what's for dinner? And you sort of go, yeah, of course, what's for dinner? Right.
It's amazing how kids process, especially at that young of an age. It's just, they remind you, they remind all of us that, okay, we have to push forward.
This huge thing had happened, but our reality was still continuing. And they forced me to confront that without disappearing into sort of a pit of my own sort of self-pity, if you like.
Yeah.
And that would be so easy to do. So they did that, and we just sort of were there for each other, you know. That kind of is what sort of carried me forward, really.
Wow. As you have gone along, I'm curious to know because I've had other widowers on the show, but it feels like it's a little farther and few between. There seem to be more women widows than there are male widowers. Whether that's true or not, I don't. I do know the statistics are higher for women being
Yeah.
widowed at a younger age, but I want to know what do you feel that widowhood as a male is similar or different to the journey of a female who goes through that journey?
I think it's the same, but it's perceived as different.
How so?
I've got a lot of friends who are widows as well, and we all go through the same emotions. But because you're a man, people who haven't been through it view this cultural thing where men and women are viewed
Mhm.
differently, and there's this dreadful cultural nonsense about men, it's sort of manning up, which is the worst expression I've ever heard in my life. And we bury the emotions and da 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 da. And culturally, it's something that's been sort of forced into men over the last couple of 100 years, at least. And women are freer with the emotions, blah blah blah. But I think that inside it's the same journey because we've all lost the person that we love the most in our life, and we are all struggling with it. And I think a lot of times men, either by choice or by cultural pressures, are forced to suppress what they would really like to say. And I think that was one of the things that I've sort of found a lot in conversations with people who say it's nice to hear it coming from a guy. We're hearing it more now. It's starting to turn.
Yes.
More men are talking about it, which is healthy. But being a man of a certain age and with a certain look, I'm older, I'm beardy, I look like I should be riding a motorbike or something. And have somebody like that talking about emotions and stuff, hopefully will encourage other men to sort of go, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I think, the inside, I don't think there's any difference in the journey. There shouldn't be.
I completely agree with you. I feel that there is this perception men have a tendency they struggle with the vulnerability.
Don't you think saying I'm hurting, I'm in pain is the strongest thing you could ever say?
Oh my god, not only is it the strongest, I think it's the sexiest, in all honesty. I think that a man that can show his vulnerability, that can show his emotions and be able to say, "I'm really hurting. I'm really
Mm,
hurting from this right now." That is a very strong thing to do. I think that's much stronger than a man who just bucks up, and even for women who just kinda say,
yeah.
"Okay, buck up, time to shove forward."
I mean, I also thought it was important for my children. I mean, I said to them, literally after I just told them that their mum had died, and I used the D word. I didn't say she's passed away. I said she's died.
I love that. I love that.
Well, then they've heard the worst thing. Then it could only get better.
Yes.
And I said to them, look, you're going to cry. You're going to hurt. You're going to be confused. I said, so am I. You are allowed to cry. You don't have to hide anything because I'm not going to hide anything from you. I said, so you don't have to hide anything from me. And we did it together. And I felt being open with my emotions was important for them.
Doing all of that, not only is that brilliant because I think it is extremely healthy, but do you feel that it helped them as you guys continued on your journeys to have healthy relationships and communication given what they had gone through?
I think definitely, definitely. I mean, I said to them from day one, I don't have all the answers, guys. I don't. You're going to ask me questions I don't know the answers to, and we'll find out together. They were forced to grow up a little bit quicker than they would have had to, at that little age, which was really, I feel really sad for them. But in another way, it gave them a strength,
Mhm.
has made them very sort of, emotionally mature young people now. But they also, I did these drawings. I did this daily doodle diary, which was part of my process of like, the way I sort of came to terms with it in myself. Sort of was by doing these daily doodles and drawings that went online, and they would look at my drawings as well, and they could sort of see their journey and our journey together. And I think that helped as well.
And having some kind of creative outlet, for some people it's writing or journaling.
Yeah,
For some people it is painting or singing or something that gives them an outlet.
exactly.
And I think that's extremely healthy.
It was a kind of self-counseling, that you'd feel the feelings, you'd put them down on paper, and then they could see that I'd been feeling it, and they knew that they were allowed to feel it. And so it was a two-way process with both of us, and all three of us rather. Yeah, I think the openness and the willingness to be emotional,
Mhm.
certainly would have helped them, and allowed them to as well. Let my son be angry when he wanted to be. He was 7, he was very young, so he processed it with the anger. I'm so cross she's dead, and
Mhm.
my daughter was kind of felt like, why? That was her question, was why did it have to be,
Yeah. What did that first year look like? What were the challenges during that first year, that first full year for you guys?
I think that the mixture, there was obviously the practical challenge of just suddenly just being me. And, I was working obviously full time and then having to look after them both. And my wife had always been, although we'd both worked, I had a more time consuming work, and she had voluntarily taken on the kind of the process of like, she cooked everything. She was brilliant. And suddenly I had to go, oh my God, I've got to keep these little people alive. I've got to feed them, and just, on practical terms like that. And then, yes, I've got to do the school things and I've got to make sure the clothes are right. And I mean, I wasn't obviously completely incompetent. I understand how it all works, but you suddenly had to do that on your own. And the thing is, you didn't have someone next to you to say, is this right? Do you think we're doing the right thing here?
Mm.
It was just before my daughter went up to big school, and I had to make sure I made the right choices for her going to her school and to
Mhm.
the meetings you have to have with the teachers and the thing, and which you'd normally do as a pair and come home and discuss. I had to discuss with myself. Those were the challenges, really, I think. And meeting those anniversaries of this is the first of these without her, the first of this without her, the first of that without her.
Those are tough.
But I found year 2 tougher.
Yes.
First time round, you're ready and you prep for it. And second time round, you go, oh, it's for keeps.
Yes.
It's for real.
Yep.
And it was tougher emotionally, but easier practically because you'd gone through it. So it was a kind of a weird one.
It's so interesting that you say that because everybody's different, but I thought the same thing. Year 1 was very dark and very hard, and we didn't have kids. So we'd been trying. That was the course we were on. But so I didn't have another outlet to focus on.
Yeah.
So that first year was just kind of numb and blurring. I felt like the second year was the same. And I haven't had a lot of people actually say that the second year was harder.
That's interesting.
But yeah, for me, it was like that smack of reality.
The other thing I found with that second year as well is obviously the first year, everybody, your friends are there supporting you. Oh, blah, blah, blah. By the time the second year's come on, naturally, their lives are moving forward, and they're not deserting you, but they have other focuses. But you're still there.
Yep.
The support system, although it's still there in a way, is not as present.
Yes.
And you feel ever so slightly more isolated, maybe, for want of a better expression, through no fault of anybody else. It's mostly your own perception because that they're, you aren't the center of their world.
Right. How did you combat that? So during that second year,
Yeah.
especially, with those challenges and with people, of course, those supports are always going to be there,
Yeah.
but it changes because their lives go on because they still have their family units and their
Exactly.
lives have not changed. Yours has. So how did you combat that? What did you do to kind of navigate some of that isolation and loneliness?
I mean, on a sort of internal level, because both my parents had died, when I was relatively young, I was ready emotionally for that.
Mm.
I knew that the feelings continue and change and grow and mature or whatever. So emotionally, I was kind of ready for it. But also, in purely practical terms, I'd made friends with and contacted through sort of social media and stuff a couple of widow groups. And I don't mean the formal ones. I mean informally. There's some of us that sort of gravitated together through Instagram and created our own little support group online. We're spread all over the country. We had our own little widow tribe. And I think there was three guys and about 10 girls on this group, and we would message each other. And if any one of us was feeling a bit something, you'd stick something on the group and the others would pitch in. And that was really helpful.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that was, I guess, primarily, that was the strongest thing, was finding our tribe.
I like that. And I think that's hard to navigate sometimes. I know that for me, even though I'm very open with a lot of things, I have a hard time saying I really need help with this or this is how I'm feeling because I feel like I'm burdening people or I feel like I'm just being a broken record.
Well, there was two things with that. One is with the widow tribe, obviously we were all in that same boat. So we all understood exactly how anybody felt if they needed the help, which was good. The other thing, so there's two other things. There were three things. My friends did this incredible thing. When she died, within 24 hours, they'd set up a WhatsApp group that was a support group for me. That I wasn't allowed to be on because they would talk about me, but I had access to the admin guys, so I could message them and say, guys, I need a babysitter, or I need help with this, that, or the other. And there was 20 of them on there or whatever who could say, oh, I can do that. So you didn't feel like you're putting the burden on one friend going, can you help me with this? I feel really bad asking you for help. You could say, I need help with this, knowing that somebody will go, yeah, I can do that one. And you're not just putting it all on one person, which was an amazing thing for them to do. And I recommend that to anybody who has a friend who loses somebody. set up a little support group for them like that, which means that the pressure is taken off you as a supporter,
Yeah.
but it really supports them. That was fantastic.
And I would add the caveat that, setting that up and not putting a timeline on it, because
Mm.
grief comes in waves, and sometimes the
Yeah.
second and third years are much harder than the first.
Yeah,
And
and
you
what
end up
happened was,
needing help with things down the road
yeah,
that you didn't expect.
and the practical support side of it goes by the bay, because you're getting used to the rhythms of your new life, and you're not having to ask for babysitters so often or whatever. But you might sometimes say, "Is anybody free? I just need some company tonight." You know
Yep.
what I mean? So that side of it can stay open.
Yes.
but the practical side of it, naturally, sort of, you don't need it as much.
Yes.
The third thing that happened for myself is because of the drawing and stuff, and I developed quite a large online following because of it. I would, if I felt like I needed to open up and it would be 2 a.m. and I couldn't sleep, I would jump on the Instagram and just go live and go, "I'm okay, but I just need to vent." And suddenly, little, people who are on there, because people followed me, on your side of
Different
the
time
pond,
zones.
or
Yeah.
different time zones, there'd always be somebody who'd go, "I'm here,
Oh, I
carry
love
on."
that.
And that
Yeah.
was incredible. All the little heart things popping up at the bottom as you're talking, and knowing that you're not alone. Yes, they might be on another continent, but they're listening. That was amazing. And that was one of the real positive sides of social media.
I love that. And you don't hear that very often. So
No, people are very quick to jump on social media and say how awful it is, but that's easy. You just delete or swipe past the things that are horrible, and
yes.
you find the good stuff. And I was
Yes.
very lucky that I found good stuff.
I'm curious what you think, because we've said it a few times, and I know how I feel about it. Do you feel like being labeled as a widower, being
Mhm.
called a widower, do you feel like it's a strength, or do you feel like it's victimizing?
I don't think it's either. I think what it is a form of identification, and the way I look at it is it's a fact. I am and always will be. Despite whatever changes in my life.
Mhm.
But it doesn't define who I am, but it informs who I am.
Oh, I love that.
It changed me fundamentally as a person when that happened to me, and that will not alter. Therefore, it informs who I am. But I am many other things apart from that, so therefore it doesn't define me. There you go. That's what I think about it.
Clear, concise, to the point. I love it. And it's so true. That's exactly how I see it, because it's a part of us. It's a part of who we are. It's a part of what our journey has been. It helps shape our who we become as
Yeah.
we go down the road. I also feel like it's empowering.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said that the first year,
No.
but now I feel like, you know what? I survived this really horrible thing.
It has become so, certainly for me, definitely it has become so. I think off the back of it having happened to me, and the response there's been, and the way
Mhm.
I've navigated it, has brought people and opportunities into my life that
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had. And that in itself is empowering, because also I see the strength in being able to help or share or whatever. Has given it a purpose in a way. And although something so tragic happened, the things that have come off the back of it, of being able to help other people, has made Joy's death less pointless.
It gives it purpose. It gives the whole thing purpose.
Yeah, it made it less kind of like, well, that was a complete bloody waste. Suddenly you go, okay, she died, but look who we're helping.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is also an empowering thing.
I love that. Let's dive in a little bit. So we're going to fast forward. We get through the first couple of years. It's really tough.
Yeah.
There's some amazing and empowering things that come out of it. And then you decide to open your heart. What did that feel like? Did you notice like an internal conflict where your heart wanted to, but your brain didn't? And
um,
was it hard?
No, it wasn't a sort of conscious decision. It wasn't like, I'll put a date in the diary, and from that date onwards, it was literally for the first year or two, you're so focused on getting through, getting by, making sure the kids are okay. I wasn't even thinking in those terms. And each person's timeline is different, obviously. I'm just talking from my own personal
Right.
experience. There were a couple of instances where people came into my life and there was intimacy or whatever, but it was only ever going to be a passing thing, and we knew that or whatever. And quite often there were people in a similar situation or whatever, but it was almost like people who just needed each other for comfort. You know what I mean? There
Right.
was that kind of feeling, and you weren't emotionally engaged in the same way, perhaps.
Mhm.
It's hard to explain. And I was not looking. And then at some point, suddenly this thing happened where somebody sort of got in touch and we clicked. And the click happened, and the click was familiar because it was the same click that happened it would have been 21 years before when Joy and I got together.
Mm.
And that click, I went like, oh, that wasn't something I was expecting. And then the little part of my head that analyzes these things sort of stepped to one side and had a look at it and went, well, hang on a minute, you've got 2 kids. I remember when Lily was born, my daughter, and that massive outpouring of love that you feel for your child. And I was like, incredible. And then like 2 years down the line, or nearly 2 years down the line, Joy got pregnant again. And I was like, great. How does this work? Because I already love Lily so much. So when he comes along, have I got to split that out? I don't get this. Well, I don't know how this works when you get 2. And of course, when he turned up, suddenly this other door opens and all this other love spills out for that one.
Mm.
You suddenly found this huge another wellspring of love that you've got for child number 2. And I realized it's exactly the same. I don't love Joy any less because she's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't love Joy any less because I've fallen in love with somebody else. What happened was this other door opened up and that possibility opened up for me. And it was like, that's kind of how that worked.
So it kind of blindsided you.
Oh, 100%. I wasn't looking.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking at all. I didn't go, time to date now, swipe left, swipe right. I didn't do any of that. I literally just was plodding on with my life, and somebody dropped me a message and I answered the message and they replied and I replied, and suddenly I realized we were chatting, and then we were flirting, and then we were in love. And it just and it happened during the sort of second lockdown we had over here. So we actually didn't physically meet until about 3 months into what we realized was a relationship.
Oh, wow.
We literally fell in love on WhatsApp, basically.
Well, that's a good plug for WhatsApp.
Yeah. Yep.
Clearly, you fell in love and you have met somebody. Were you scared at all once you realized that I do love this person? Like, I'm in love with this person. Were there any fear or worry about, oh God, what if I lose this person now? And what if she dies?
There is that fear. But I think there's that fear with everything. What about if I don't wake up in the morning? What about if I cross the road and look the wrong way and get hit by a bus? What about if, so you have to go, you know what? I'm going with the flow. I realized when Joy died, that how fleeting and how precious this existence. We're here for a blink of an eyelid in the great history of the universe.
Yeah.
And it's like, why waste a second of it? Take those opportunities. There's an improvisation technique called yes and when you're acting.
Okay.
If you're doing an improvisation scene and you're doing something in the room and someone says, hey, why is that thing coming down the wall? You don't go, there's nothing there. You go, oh, it's so-so. You go, yes, and you build on anything that people bring into the scene.
Oh.
Such and such is happening, yes, and. If you say no, you kill a scene. So you go, yes, and you build on it. And I thought, well, that's how I'm going to live life. It's an opportunity comes up and I go, yes, and take it.
I love the visualization of that. And I hope that helps our listeners, because there's actually a counseling technique that builds off of that.
Oh, right.
When we're going through severe grief and trauma and we're trying to navigate moving forward and how to do that, a lot of times we have the tendency to end the scene, like you're talking about, where we use the word but.
Yeah.
This has happened, but, I can't do this. Or, there's always this stop, this hard stop. In counseling, they teach you can feel 2 things at once. It can be, yes, I hate that this has happened, and I have to keep going.
Yep.
I don't want to open my heart again because I'm scared, and I don't want to be alone.
Yep. Exactly.
So you're continuing to build because you can have 2 things be at once.
Frankly, the worst thing that could happen has happened.
Yes.
So you just have to say, I can handle this. And if something bad happens again, I will handle this.
Yeah.
I try to be a glass half full, you know what I mean? It's one of those sort of things when you have rough stuff happen, you've got 2, you either go, oh no,
Mm-hmm.
oh dear, it's all awful. Or you go, right, how can I turn this around and go, let's make something. And I try to do positive grieving. Yes, it's awful she's died and I miss her horribly. But I don't go, oh no, I'm dying, so she's gone. I go, how lucky was I to have had her for 19 years? And look at all those great memories I've got.
I want to hone in on that a little bit, because that is extremely important. And it's something that I did with Mike. I had him for nearly 20 years. I had my soulmate for nearly 20 years, and it was the biggest blessing ever. Sometimes I feel that depending on our pedigree, depending on how we grew up or what kind of family style we come from, not everybody can transition into a positive grieving form, especially if
Yeah.
they weren't taught those methods as a kid. You seem to come from a place of strength. And I get the sense that your parents taught you quite a bit before they passed away.
Yeah.
And I think that that is vital in how we face challenges that come up in our life, that vulnerability, the communication, the willingness to say, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight through this.
I love my parents deeply and they were very sweet. But I mean, I went to boarding school, so we weren't as close as perhaps I would have been if I'd been at home. But they were very sweet people with really good hearts, and they taught me how to be a good person. We didn't ever have very deep chats. I'm from a generation where we didn't talk about stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I'm an artist. I perform and stuff.
You could tap into that wellstream.
Yeah, I have a peer group who does. We're not afraid of talking about emotions. Being open to that sort of positive thinking, I think, comes from looking at life that way, I guess.
And I think that it's powerful. It's powerful to see life that way. It's powerful. It's a good building block, and I think it's a good pillar to lean on.
But it's easy to say when you can do it, when you've done it. And I totally understand if people who are struggling and finding it hard, and the circumstances in which they've had their loss can be a lot more challenging even.
Mhm.
And, there's a lot of more barriers to climb over before you can get there. As I've said to people a million times, everybody's grief is
Yes.
different. There's no grieving for dummies, but
No.
we're all going through this same tangled forest.
Yes.
We're just all taking a different path.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. I'm curious, as we're talking about communication and vulnerability and kind of feeling your emotions as you're walking through all this stuff. Once you realized you were in love, once you knew, and we'll get to where things are now, but as you
Mm.
realized that this was something very serious, what did that communication look like with your children? And how open was your new relationship to holding on to and being able to embrace and remember joy, and not
Yeah.
relinquishing that to a dark corner?
I mean, that again, I followed that same path I had from day one with them. I was completely open about it. They'd seen various friends of mine that we know, and they liked various people I'd met and been sort of with a small W, you know what I mean, sort of thing. But then when Lisa came into my life, I sort of sat down one day and I said to them, guys, I've met someone very special here, and I've fallen in love. It doesn't mean that I love mum any less. It doesn't mean that mum is not any more part of our life. She is still very much part of our history and who we are and who we will always be.
Mhm.
Lisa's come into this, and they were like, yeah, they got it. From day one, they said, oh, do you think you'll find somebody else? Literally, they were saying that to me like a couple of months after she died. They were saying stuff like that, because
Oh, okay.
I think they wanted a family again, obviously. They were small and suddenly just had me. So I think they very much wanted that unit or whatever.
Mhm.
And when she came along, I mean, they were like, they saw it made me happy.
Mhm.
They liked her, which was a bonus. And we all got on, and they said, I'm glad you found somebody that's so nice, and they were just really cool about it. What was important was not for a second did Joy's memory ever get sidelined. We still talk about her every day.
I was gonna ask. Okay.
Oh, her name comes up every day. Lisa will initiate that in a conversation. Oh, your mum would blah blah blah. She talks about her almost like she knew her, and she didn't. But she will say to them, talk to them about their mum, and there are pictures of Joy around the house still and stuff like that. And she's included in the family conversation.
Now, do you still have traditions that you and Joy had when the kids were little that you still maintain, like holiday traditions?
Yeah. I mean, we do certain things at like Christmases and stuff, and various birthday things or whatever. Things that we used to do, we still do those. They change a bit because the dynamic has changed, but there are
Mhm.
certain things that we do. Like every year, when she was alive, we used to have like an open house on her birthday in the summer, where we'd throw the garden and the house open, and all our friends would say, "Come when you want, stay as long as you want, go when you want," and it would be
Mhm.
like the summer birthday party thing.
Mhm.
And we've kept that up every year since she died, and it's still called Joy's Open House Birthday Party. And we have it every summer around her birthday, and so that's there like a memory for
I
her.
love that.
And all our friends still come for Joy's birthday, which is great because it's given that continuity.
Mhm.
Little things like we always used to try and go out on New Year's Day, and we still try and do that if we can, because it's something we did. they've grown up, they've got older, they went from tiny children to teenagers, so their life has transitioned and changed anyway.
Yeah.
Therefore, they're not as hung on the little traditions that perhaps they would have been, or if it happened when they were older, the more mature tradition. They've gone through those really important key years
Mm-hmm.
during their early stages of being without their mum. So they've found their own new rhythms themselves, and I do my best to try and respect what they're discovering as well.
So your new partner's name is Lisa.
Yeah.
You've recently, I
Mhm.
think within the last several months, last year, you guys got married, correct?
We did. In fact, 2 days ago was our first wedding anniversary. As
Oh,
we're
2 days
on the
ago.
point of recording. When I don't know how long this is going out after the recording, but 2
Yep.
days before this recording was our first wedding anniversary.
Oh, I love that. So you guys have been together. You guys have been married now for about a year.
For a year. We've been together for about 4 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. And you guys, how did you celebrate your first anniversary?
A couple of days before, her mum and dad took us out for a meal. And then on the day itself, we opened a couple of little presents and cards. And then she drove back to Southend, where she comes from, which is about an hour and a half's drive away, and went to see some friends for a birthday party. And I was on stage doing 2 performances of 12th Night. So
Okay. So separately.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting. And that actually feeds into something that's quite interesting to observe, is that Joy and I both met through theatre, both had identical interests, and worked together, had a company together. We were together 24/7 and did everything. Lisa and I have the things that we love together, but we also have our separate interests and lives that we respect. She totally gets that I love the theatre, that I do what I do. She loves watching. There's no way you'd get her up on that stage. And she has her whole circle of family and friends and stuff that back from where she came from, because she moved down to where I am when we got together.
Mm-hmm.
That's her world. Her family is still all very much around, and that's what she does. And we respect each other's separate interests and support that. And so she's not an understudy. She's not a replacement. She's a very different person. That's how this works, I think.
I'm really glad that you pointed that out, because I do think that we can fall into the trap of comparing
Yep.
to the spouse that we had. And what I kind of zeroed in on when we first started talking about when you opened your heart again, when it kind of came out of nowhere, you said there was something familiar.
Yep.
And I think that's the key, is that
Yep.
you'll notice something familiar. Like there's just this familiar feeling that you can't put a finger on,
Yep.
but it doesn't mean that the person is the same person.
Yeah.
It just means that there's a feeling there. But I love that there's a dichotomy between you two.
There was a familiarity in the emotional click that happened.
Yes.
And the other thing is we make each other laugh the way that Joy and I made each other laugh. And that's the thing that's similar, is we make each other laugh that way. Laughter was always a huge part of our life, and it's a big part of our life. But everything else is pretty different. And that's great.
There's important things that you should want no matter where your life journey goes after somebody dies. But I think that there are a few crucial things, a few values that are really important. Things that, how somebody treats you, laughter. You have to be able to identify that these things are really important to me.
Yeah.
I think people undervalue laughter. Laughter is, Mike and I used to laugh. He used to say the dumbest things.
Yep.
And I would just turn around and be like, you really did not just say that. And I would just start cracking up because it would come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think that is so crucial and so key. And the other thing I would love to ask you too is, how do you and Lisa celebrate romance in the little ways? Not like the big grand gestures, but how do you guys communicate romantically in your relationship?
In exactly that, the little everyday ways, just the touch of a hand, the sitting together on the sofa, the when you're watching the TV, you're leaning on each other, as you walk past each other, that sort of just that brush of comfort on the shoulder. You know what I mean? Just the simple, yes, I'm here moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I guess that's if you excluding the grand gestures, it's the small things of like, I'm here, and if something's not going right, if there's either a little argument or a disagreement, just stepping back from it and letting it do what it needs to do, and then going, right, let's sort that out. Let's get the solution to this, whatever this issue, and respecting each other's opinions. I think that's the answer to the question. I'm not sure.
It is. I think it, and the reason I ask this too is because I've noticed as at this stage in my life, and through others that I have met that are on the same journey that are at older stages in their lives,
Mm,
I'm noticing a trend among meeting people where those little things have not been relevant
mm,
in their lives. And there's a lack of being able to be vulnerable and be supportive and open communication. I think that there's really this struggle
mm.
with what healthy communication looks like and what's supporting each other. And the way you describe your and Lisa's relationship, it sounds like you guys choose each other every single day.
Yeah, I think so. It's still, I still, when she comes home, I work from home, she goes out. When she comes in, I still have a big old grin because she's walked through the door. It's lovely. Her smile makes me feel warm inside, and it's nice to sort of just think, yeah, you're there. And I might be in my early 60s, you know what I mean? But I still feel like a teenager.
But that's crucial. I mean, I'm 48, so I'm not, and I have no problem letting thousands of listeners know that. It's fine, it's fine. As I've met men that are older, I have a lot of widowed friends that are saying the same thing, it's wow, there's really this struggle for them to just be themselves and to
Yeah.
want to be vulnerable, or they realize that there's an intensity of feeling and it's like, "Oh my god."
And I guess that goes. There's two. That's part of that is societal. I think that this thing of that sort of protection, that sort of self protection of going, I'm not going to open up just in case I get hurt again. I mean,
Mhm.
maybe there's an element of that with some people, or oh, grown ups don't act that way.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm like to hell with all that nonsense. I'm very happy to be seen as a great big kid. I don't care.
I think that that's one I love that especially when you talk about how if there are little arguments and stuff, you guys give each other space,
Yeah.
but then you come back around and you're not afraid of the uncomfortable.
You need to confront. There's no point in burying. I mean, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? Again, something else you learn as you get older as well. I think that you are
Yes.
going to disagree on things. That is what happens with people.
Yes.
And the mature way of dealing with that is not to go, I'm right, you're wrong, end of. Is to actually go, right, we're obviously not going to agree on this. Where's our middle ground? Or where do we choose our battle? Which one am I going to, you know what, you have this one.
Mhm.
You win this one. That's fine.
Mhm.
It's just being mature about facing, whatever the situation is, really. And I can be massively immature. I can strop with the best of
Oh,
them.
I'm not
I've got a
surprised.
teenage. I've got a teenage daughter, and believe me, the two of us can outstrop each other, no problem. It's great.
Oh, there's something about a father-daughter dynamic. My dad and I we used to butt heads a lot.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I feel very privileged. I mean, after Joy died, when Lily was only 10, so I was there as a solo dad for all those really big sort of physiological changes in her body and her life, and
Oh, geez,
but
yeah.
but to be there, and to us, we didn't have any secrets about it. We were very open because we had to, and I feel privileged that I was in that position because a lot of dads don't get that because mum sorts it
Yes.
and you get a bit sidelined possibly. And I feel kind of lucky that in a way that despite the circumstances being so tragic, that I got to have that opportunity. And I think it's given us a little bond which is quite strong. But yes, we butt heads as well.
I love that you kind of zeroed in on that though, because it is a gift. It's a gift to have been given that time with her during that phase in her life. Because I do know a lot of men, a lot of parents, fathers that would be like, "Oh, that's a woman's issue. Go
Yep.
have them take care of that." Like
Yep,
that's
yep,
not.
and that's unfortunate. That's the world, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's how it is. But gosh, if only more people had the opportunity, you'd realize just how much better it can be.
it's a special bond to be part of.
100%. Yep, yep.
So now, what's something that you would want listeners to know, like a piece of hope? We've talked so much about, what happened to Joy and how sudden it was and how you navigated through it. But then here you were, all of these little moments of joy and of pleasure and of happiness that you found with your children along the way. And then eventually with Lisa, there's a resilience to you that I would love more people to find their way to. And it's hard work. It is
Yeah.
not easy to have that. And there are days where I even feel I'm like, I'm too tired to be
Mhm.
strong today. I'm
Yeah.
just too tired to do this.
Yeah.
So, what's something of hope that you would want others to know that might be on this journey?
I think something I realized fairly early on, and again, it was my kids that taught me this in a way, is you are allowed to laugh. You
Mm.
are allowed to be happy. Yes, you are heartbroken because the person you love has died, but you haven't. And you have allowed to enjoy your life, even in the early days when you're all consumed with grief. Let laughter in. And the more you let laughter in, the more you realize it's okay to be laughing. You're not laughing because they're gone. You're laughing in spite of the fact that they've gone. You're saying, I'm lucky I'm still here, and I am going to celebrate the fact that I get to do whatever it is I still get to do now, and they would be laughing with you if they could.
I love that.
And I think that is the thing that I realized early on, and it's the thing that I think carried me certainly in the early days as well. And it started with my son. My son was a very funny little boy, and I think like 2 days in, he said something really funny, and it just made the three of us just cry with laughter. And it was a sort of funny take on a negative that he did. It's too complicated to explain, but he just made us laugh, and we were like, "Oh, how much better do we all feel now?" And then we just let the laughter in again. And we'd always say, "Oh, mum would be laughing at this, wouldn't she? She'd be laughing at you so much now." We go, "Yes, she would." That's my little golden gift.
Just laugh.
Laugh.
Find a way to laugh.
Yeah.
If people get a chance to look up some of the studies, laughter is a very powerful healer. It is powerful medicine. And I think we forget, especially with the stress of everything that is going on in our world these days.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we focus so much on what's not going well that we forget what is going well, and we forget to laugh. We don't allow ourselves that release.
Yes, I 100% agree. And it is important. And there's different types of laughter. And there's nothing wrong with jet black humor as well. You know, laughter about things that you shouldn't be laughing about takes the edge off them.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I'm a great believer in that.
I 100% agree. And I've had those moments, and it's like, shh, nobody needs
Inappropriate
to know.
I love it.
Yes,
Yep.
I agree. Oh, I'm so glad that we got a chance to chat with you today and to have you share your pearls of wisdom with everybody out there who might be on this journey or has gone through this or knows somebody that has gone through this. We're all connected and we all hold each other's hands. And I think sometimes we forget that we're not as alone as we might feel.
Or as different as we might think we are.
We are definitely not as different as people have a tendency to see.
Or to try and make us, and we shouldn't be, inside.
We all come from the same molecules.
Exactly.
So now, if anybody wanted to connect with you, where can people find you or take a look at some of your beautiful work?
Yeah. Oh, bless you. I'm on all the socials. I think I'm on pretty much all of them. And if you just type in Gary Scribbler, you'll find me that way.
At Gary Scribbler. And I will have his bio hyperlinks to where you can find him up on our website as this airs as well. Gary, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your story from across the pond and our lovely friends over in the UK. I'm so grateful to know you and to have you give me this time. Every time I talk to you, I feel like I learned something new.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
If you enjoy healthy and easy to make food, you should check out our YouTube channel. Shannon shows you how to make some of her favorite dishes. Her last recipe was niçoise salad. You can also find the recipes for these dishes on our website.
You've been listening to the Game on Glio podcast, the podcast that is designed to educate, advocate, and tell the real stories of those walking the journey of brain cancers such as glioblastoma and grief and loss. Like what you hear? Share us with others. Follow us on Instagram at Game on Glio Podcast, Facebook at Game on Glio, or visit our website or YouTube channel. You can find us anywhere podcasts are played.